guys, welcome to TacTalk. This week's episode, we're going to talk to a new friend of ours by the name of Anthony, talking about a lot of things and how you self-defense, really when you don't have your gun anymore. Maybe your gun gets knocked off, maybe you left the house without it. What do you do then, right?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah, so today's guest is Anthony Wikstrom. I got to meet him when I was training at Jiu-Jitsu gym up in North Texas, and it's actually where our mutual friend Vince Vargas.
Oh yeah,
Vince told me.
Vince, awesome.
Yeah, so
Cool.
Vince was like, "Hey, bro, this is where you need to go." It's like I got a Ranger buddy. He's one of the instructors there. 1,000% whoop my butt. It's definitely an eye-opening experience. But just to kind of overview, I told this fool to send me a brief bio. He sent me three pages.
There's a lot.
No, I'm kidding. So Anthony's from Kailua, Kona, Hawaii. 3 kids and 2 boys and 1 girl. I have 4 kids. I have 3 girls, 1 boy.
Nice.
Backwards. Yep. Right. But like I mentioned, he's a former Army Ranger, was a combat medic. He enlisted in 2000, combat deployments. He's a master's combatives instructor. But beyond that, he's one of the top fighters in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the world.
Wow.
Number 1 in North America, and I think number 7 in the world right now.
Yep.
No shit.
So when we bring on subject matter experts, we bring on subject matter experts.
Most importantly, I'm glad we're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. So how'd you get there? So Army Ranger, what's the backstory?
So I started fighting in 2005 at a Fort Jackson. I saw Combatives. My best friend showed me what it was. I saw the class on Friday. I was in class Monday.
No shit.
And my first class was September 24th, 2005. I still remember the day 1, and I just fell in love with it.
Okay.
And so I started fighting MMA through the Army. And I was like, well, if you're going to pay me to fight, you're going to pay me to learn how to teach. Why not use that ability?
Yeah.
And so I just stuck with it. And then when I was in Korea, I want to do something different. I don't want to be a normal soldier going back to a unit. I was like, what about going Rangers? You know, they do special stuff. And I looked up RASP, Ranger Assessment Selection Program. And so I applied. I got selected, went through selection, and made it.
Wow.
And so I just kept doing things that people did not want to do.
Yeah.
And I felt that doing something different was important to me, physically, mentally, emotionally. So I just wanted to be just a little bit above average.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We don't strive for excellence in mediocrity.
Right.
Right? We're going to strive for excellence. We're going for excellence. Do you know Matt Larson?
Yes, I know Matt very well.
Yeah.
He
So-
gave me my blue belt in 2006.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So Matt's a good dude. He was like one of my first introductions to really like the mindset of combatives, right? And really and truly, I think that's kind of too where we're going to delve down here in just a little bit is, bro, this is a mindset, right? Like there are some like rough, tough scrappers out there, but like a lot of times you can win the game with how you approach the fight, right? Mentally.
Yep.
I think it's really dope too, though, that you're consistently, like you took what you took in the military and now you're doing that in the civilian world, still instructing.
You're getting paid
today.
for it too.
Yeah.
Still getting
Pretty
paid
cool,
for
right?
it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Got paid to fight, and I'm still getting paid to fight.
Yes. Yep. So best of both worlds.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because I see a lot of veterans kind of let those skill sets go to the wayside, whether it be shooting, whatever their MOS was, or any additional tasks that they may have learned. They just kind of just let it go to the wayside.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing when you're in, right, and your job is to train and be ready and do all these things. Then you get back and now you got to go to a different job, and you don't necessarily have the time to beat on that craft every day.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not fixing any aircraft anymore. Like,
Right.
not keeping that skill set. I'm good.
Yeah, but also like discipline, waking up,
Yeah.
going to the gym.
Yep.
Being physically active. I see a lot of veterans that I run into. They don't work out anymore. They lost that. So for me, that right there is motivation to keep that.
No, that was me.
Sure.
That was definitely me, and that was recent, like where I just started getting back. And I texted Chris the other day. I was like, man, when I decided to go back to it, And I was like, day one, 7 Mile Rock. Like, let's just
jump right in the deep
jump
end.
right in. Like,
You regretted that the next day. You're not talking about the call you made the next day.
The next day, I was like, dude, my feet and ankles are killing me. I definitely wore the wrong shoes.
That's right.
But it was kind of one of those deals where I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, we're going to do it, right? And I think that's a very good point. Chris and I talk about shooting on this show all the time, and how that is a perishable skill set.
100%.
Right? Like, and just because, and I think some dudes think, oh, well, I was trained to handle one, and then you get back in the real world scenario, and you pick up a firearm, and you're like, it's not front sight post anymore. There's,
right.
It's a perishable skill.
Yep, absolutely.
So much like, again, like you're talking about, like the discipline, the martial arts, all of those things.
Yep.
For sure.
So you're teaching every day now, pretty much.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, I teach at Rockstar South Frisco
Okay,
with
cool.
Lucas Lima.
Okay, awesome. So people that show up to your classes, who are they typically? Like, how can you?
Just normal people.
Normal people.
They are just people that want to be challenged,
okay,
or have been challenged, and maybe have, maybe kind of lost their way just a little bit, due to work or life, and they want to they want to try something new.
Okay.
Or they may have seen it on TV and be like, I want to give it a shot.
Yep.
I may not be a world champion, but I'm on the mats.
Yep.
And so those people come in and they are looking for something that they want to do outside of their wheelhouse.
Yep.
And I'm happy and glad that they choose us.
That's
and
awesome.
They come in and they do get the work.
So would you say they show up more from a, hey, I want to get fit standpoint, or self-defense, or some other reason? I mean, or all?
I just think it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Mixture of both.
Yeah.
There's not really one major reason. I think it's a combination of everything that brings somebody in.
Yeah.
Whether they've been bullied, or looking for a mindset, or looking to just get physically fit again.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, for me, from a physically fit stance, I much prefer to have a goal of something I'm working on, right? Like maybe it's jiu-jitsu, which I want to start, and it'll be new for me. For me at this point, it's tactical games, training for the tactical games, because it's not something I just show up to the gym and lift some weights and walk out. Right. Like there's a purpose here in a competition that I'm going to go do at the end of this, so to speak, right? Absolutely. And that helps me stay motivated toward it, right?
Yeah. And I think I'm like a two-way client, right? Like I have the combatives background, I have the military background, but I also have that I need to get back to like doing something because life got in the way, right? Having 4 kids, and I wanted to be quote unquote super dad. I think I'm a pretty good dad, but Chris knows this probably better than anyone, being business partners in real life and friends in real life. Bro, I drop everything for my kids. Like if my kids need something, like I'm going to do what my kids need me to be, like to do and to be there. And so that's kind of like what perished those skills for me, was like, and I'm trying to be a devoted dad. And then I realized I'm not really being a devoted dad, like, because I'm not taking care of myself.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, when we stop moving, we ultimately stop moving for real, right?
Yeah.
And you see that with older people. The older we get, you see you see a guy in his 80s and 90s that's just running around crazy because he never stopped moving. Yeah. He's still doing things.
My grandfather is that way. Like my grandfather still to this day works cattle on horseback, like, and it's just his thing. Like he's
awesome.
He's moving, right?
Yeah.
So when I was in the Ranger Regiment, before I left, a former RCM was like, Anthony, do not stop moving. If you stop moving, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And even when I try to take a day off, that goes through my head. That, okay, what can I do? Yes, I'm sore. I'm beat up. I can go for a walk.
Yeah.
I can go do yoga. I can put it on my tablet. I can watch yoga.
Yeah.
I could do something to help me recover. I can also do something that helps me active recovery.
Yep.
Even though I'm sore, beat up, I can barely move, I have to do something.
Yeah.
Well, I think people say excuses a lot of times, say, well, I'm just too damn busy to work out, right? I can't do it. I got too much going on. Look, you can spare 30 minutes out of your day. You, at the very least these days, people scrolled longer than that on TikTok. You could take some time and go do something.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I was hanging out not too long ago with Ray Cash. You know Ray, former Navy SEAL. Like I was hanging out with Ray, and Ray goes, "Man, one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was from Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone said, "You don't get fit, you stay fit." And he goes, "So like once you're on this journey, you stay there. Like don't get off of it." And I was like, that was a pretty solid like kick in the butt. You know what I mean?
We've made it to the point now where at our home. So we have a trainer come several times a week and train us. And trust me, I don't want to get up at 6:30 in the morning when he shows up, but he's there, right? And it is what it is, right? And so for me, that's taken out some of the barriers, right? And it's because I work from home and I have so much going on that if somebody is there, then I'm gonna do it. Where if I have to like actively drive across town to go to the gym, I'm less likely to it, right? So what barriers can I take out of the way to just make sure it happens?
Yep.
Yeah.
Period.
For me, I have to leave my house.
You do? Okay.
Yes. I know my friends have home gyms.
I'm the same way.
Like, I cannot work at home.
Okay.
Like, I have to leave my house and go work out. So if I leave, I'm dedicated, I'm motivated, and I'm there. I'm gonna get something in. I'm gonna get my workout in. I'm gonna make it worthwhile why I left.
Okay.
Yep. No, I'm the same way, dude. Like I have a whole strength gym at the house. Like, don't use it.
Yeah.
I
don't use ours unless Bailey shows up to train us in it. Let's be honest.
I have to leave the house. But this dude, like, I mean, I remember, like, I'd wake up, like, which again, I'm telling on myself, right? Because we were training at the same gym. I'd wake up like 4:45, and it's already like he's posted at 4:30, getting ready for Muay Thai.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, I'm supposed to be there. Just gonna turn my phone back off. It's like, but 4:30 in the morning, bro. Like, I mean, that's dedication.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Let's kind of shift gears just a little bit. So Chris and I, we've done episodes. We did a whole episode with Vince where we talked about what we carry, our everyday carry, like what our loadout looks like. And in theory, it's a great concept, right? To carry a pistol, carry a firearm, especially if you're training like we do.
Have a knife
right?
on you,
like,
whatever.
Whatever that case is, right? We talked about all those things. But when it hits the fan, which likely it will at some point in our lives, if you don't have time to draw that, or let's just say the situation does not call for me to draw my firearm, right? Because not every situation that poses a threat is a threat to use lethal force.
Right.
Do I know how to defend myself?
More than that, I would say that, so let's call it 75, being nice, I think, % of people that do carry on a daily basis don't actually train in a way that is appropriate for them to use force on force when needed, right, with that firearm. In other words, they may go to the range once or twice a year, pull there, stand in a lane, shoot. They're not moving and shooting. They're not practicing on the draw. They're not doing any of that, right?
Which we've seen evidence. We've talked about that, right?
Or have somebody running towards them.
Correct. All of these things that you and I train because we have the ability to, the time, and all of it, right? It's kind of what we do. But I would say that 75% of people that are not prepared moving and shooting, communicating as they practice, rehearse, if you will, for scenarios, are more likely going to get into a situation that when shit comes down, they're not going to be able to get their gun or their knife or whatever out fast enough. So they are going to be fists, right? Or hands on hands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like once you're putting your hands on someone and like once you're there, right? And I think maybe with the more like as UFC has grown and become more popular, I think more people have sought out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But man, I remember growing up, I did Taekwondo, like as a little kid, right? So my parents were like, oh, we'll throw you in here, right? Bro, like there's nothing that I can remember from Taekwondo that I would ever use in real life. Right. Like really and truly. Was it a cool workout? Was it cool to hang out with my friends? Were they all doing it? Yes.
Was it cool to yell and break the board?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. That was cool. But is it functional? No. Is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu functional? Yes. I was kind of mentioning my son started at Rockstar, but both of my son and my daughter have been told no more Jiu-Jitsu right now because they're both wrestlers at a higher level and they're too comfortable on their back if they do Jiu-Jitsu, right? So, but talk to us just a little bit, like, why or what do you attribute maybe the explosion? Because really and truly, there's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym like everywhere now.
Every corner.
Every corner. Like, there's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. It's exploded. But I think beyond just the popularity of mixed martial arts, the functionality of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So kind of explain the concept behind BJJ, why it's probably one of the fastest growing martial arts, if not the fastest growing.
I just think that basically it's grounded in reality. It's everything in there is reality. Taekwondo, you don't punch the face. Is that reality? No, you're going to punch somebody in the face for real. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're really going to choke somebody. You really could put them, you make them unconscious. You could break somebody's arm, legs, ankles. You're actually applying those techniques, not to the full extent, of course, because you need training partners. You know, you can't break everybody. But no, it's actually grounded in reality, and it's adapting of wrestling. It's adapting of judo, and just controlling the individual learning how to control somebody is very dominant and very self-esteem, personal courage to actually do that to somebody. And also to actually apply those techniques takes training. It takes a certain mental to be able to do that to somebody.
Yeah. No, and I agree, dude. Like, I mean, so like when we do that, it's true. Most fights end up on the ground. Like most fights are going to end up scrapping on the ground, right? Whether you get knocked down or you're knocking someone down.
Or you trip and fall over something, trip and fall over a couch, curb, whatever the case may be.
Yep. Yeah. So, you know, that's, but one of the things that I've heard before, and this is from friends of like personal friends of mine, and they're like, man, why do you do that? Why do you train? And I'm like, well, you know, for me, it was a real perishing skill set for me. But the calisthenics of it, being able to lose some weight, being able to get back into that vibe, camaraderie, all of those things, their fear, and I know a lot of people's fear when they go into a gym, and I've gone to gyms like this, but they're like, man, I really don't know crap about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know crap about, you know, self-defense. And they get in there and they're, you know, you hit that break after your warm-ups and they're throwing like, you know, you're a beginner and they're throwing you in with like a purple belt or a black belt. And that's their fear. It's like, man, I'm just going to go in there and get pieced up. Why would I come back?
Right.
I mean, there's certainly an intimidation factor of going into the gym for the first time, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I go, hopefully soon, it'll be my first time. And there is a little bit intimidation factor. And I'm normally a person that'll just walk in anything and be like, let's roll, right? But there is a little bit of that. Same thing we talk a lot of times about with firearm dealers and the fact that if they have a gun shop, it's pretty hard for somebody that's not into guns that may want to get started to walk in there and talk to the typical gun guy behind the counter. Yeah.
Yeah. But there have been gyms, even I have a combatives background, I have a military background, and I've gone in and I'm like, I probably wouldn't come back here, man. It just wasn't my vibe. Like, you know, you're just.
And each gym has its culture.
Yeah.
You know, there is a culture, you know, of a gym that, you know, maybe we're more of a relaxed gym or maybe we're more of a hard competition gym. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you go to those hard competition gyms, you know, you're more likely to get more competitors, world champions that take it, you know, a little bit more serious than more of the casual guys that just do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And also, too, that's just finding the balance of for the individual, what they're looking for.
Yeah. So you train not just jiu-jitsu, though. You also do Muay Thai.
Muay Thai, yes.
Tell me the differences between Muay Thai. Tell them the differences.
So Muay Thai would be standing up, would be boxing with elbows, knees, close quarter clinching.
Okay.
Versus jiu-jitsu would be more clinching, takedown on the ground, body control.
Yep. Right.
So being able to fight stand up and on the ground kind of makes yourself a well-rounded individual.
Because like a lot of times you hear like for the health and fitness side, right? Boxing gyms, great, right? No. Boxing workouts, boxing gyms. But in reality, if I'm this close to you, throwing a punch might not be as significant as me coming across with my elbow, right?
Yep.
So I think that skill set again, right? Yes. In what scenarios do you find yourself kind of looking at these skill sets most applicable? As far as like, you know, obviously I'm not fighting everybody day-to-day life, but there are some that do, you know, are law enforcement guys, people like that. You know, but again, and not to be super controversial, right? But we obviously, every time there's a police shooting or something that happens, right, the news media spins out of control. And now that has caused police officers to be more hesitant to draw their firearms in life or death scenarios a lot of times, right? And they hesitate and end up getting shot or getting hurt. But then you see, and again, I mean, we see it. I see it in the Army. I've seen it in the Army. I've seen it in the evolution of the like different branches, right? You're losing the physical fitness side of things too, to where like, man, can some of these police officers take me down? I'm not gonna lie, like I've been around, like I've never had to steal in my life, and I've looked around, I'm like,
we've all seen a cop and thought, I can get away with that. I can outrun
exactly.
that.
It's like, bro, like, dude, that dude's not stopping me.
I can definitely outrun that guy.
I am out of reach from his taser as fast as I can go from that guy. So, have you seen a trend within law enforcement to kind of adapt some of these skill sets and start using them more?
I have seen, in also, I think New York now is making it mandatory now for cops to learn jiu-jitsu.
Wow. Awesome.
I know that they reached out to the Gracies and asked them, hey, can you go have a program for us? And they have been doing that. I know I have been teaching law enforcement since I got out, and I'm also working with